Sir, are you all right? Sir, she repeated, knocking gently on the driver's window. He finally turned slowly. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was creased with exhaustion that went deeper than fatigue. She knew that look. It was the same one her mother had worn the day the diagnosis came. The look of someone who'd run out of options. I'm fine, he muttered, though the brokenness in his voice betrayed him. No, Maya said simply, stepping closer. You're not, Their eyes met for the first time. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe not of faces, but of circumstance. And then he exhaled like he hadn't in days. You don't know who I am, do you? He asked, the hint of pride still clinging to his words, even through the grief. No, sir. Should I? I'm Benjamin Hart, he said almost reluctantly. I run Hart Holdings, hotels, condos, city properties. Her breath caught. The name was familiar, of course, billboards, morning business reports, features in Forbes. But it wasn't until that moment, with the weight of the name colliding with the reality of the man in front of her, that something clicked deep inside her memory. If you feel for this character, like this video and comment where you are watching from, BUP Stories. You might find someone nearby watching, too. 2 years ago, the hospital, her mother. You, she started, narrowing her eyes as details returned like puzzle pieces locking into place. Did you pay a medical bill at Atlanta General about 2 years back for a woman named Gladys William? His expression changed. His gaze lifted slightly. I remember that name. The nurse at the desk said, your mother was about to be discharged early because she couldn't afford the surgery. Maya's hands trembled. We never found out who did it. I thought it was some anonymous donation. That surgery, it saved her life. Benjamin offered a small, tired smile. It was the least I could do. Your mother reminded me of mine. Tough, proud, and deserving of far more kindness than she was given. Maya blinked rapidly, overwhelmed. You saved her, and you don't even know me. I didn't do it for thanks. Well, she said, taking a steadying breath. You're getting it anyway. There was a silence that hung heavy again, but not cold this time. It was warm, charged with something like quiet fate. What's got you like this, Mr. Hart? She asked gently. He rubbed his face. Lost custody of my son today. Judge said my life's too public, too unstable. His mother. She made it look like I'm more brand than father. She lying? Maya asked. He looked at her, surprised by the bluntness. Yes. And she's good at it. Maya nodded slowly, thoughtful. You got anything that proves she's lying? Some things. Nothing that would hold up in court, though. She covered her tracks. Maya reached into her coat, pulled out her cracked old phone. Let me help. You don't even know me, he said again. I know enough. And more importantly, you helped me when I was at my lowest. I don't forget kindness. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Maya, between house-cleaning shifts and late-night internet dives, had tracked down a digital trail, a tampered calendar entry, a ghost IP, a trail of receipts linked to the private investigator Benjamin's ex-wife denied hiring, and she found the original footage of a parenting class that had been manipulated to discredit him. She gathered it all quietly, precisely, and when she handed the folder to Benjamin, he held it like something holy. I don't know what to say, he whispered. Say you'll fight, Maya replied. Not just for you, for your boy. He did. And he won. The judge overturned the original decision in a special hearing. Full custody was reinstated. The tabloids tried to spin it, but the footage spoke louder than gossip. 2 months later, Maya was called into a corner office. In one of Hart Holdings' downtown towers, Benjamin stood by the window, suit crisp, eyes warm. I'd like you to come work for me, he said. Executive-level assistant in my legal outreach division. 6-figure salary. Full benefits office with a view. She gaped at him. I'm not qualified. Yes, you are. You're organized. You're relentless. And you have more heart than anyone I've hired in years, her eyes watered. Why, she whispered. Because you saved my family. Now, let me help you build yours. Maya nodded slowly. All right, she said. But only if I still get to call you out when you're wrong, he chuckled. Deal? And just like that, everything changed for both of them. The apartment complex Maya called home sat just beyond the curve of the Martyr line, where the city's energy softened into humbler rhythms, cracked sidewalks, window boxes clinging to life. Neighbors who greeted each other by name, even when they didn't have much to say. Inside, Mia peeled off her damp coat and hung it on the same nail she'd used since college. The air carried the faint scent of lavender and old pine cleaner, her mother's signature, still lingering even though she hadn't been well enough to clean in years. Mama, Maya called gently. You awake? A voice came from the back room, thin but alert. Barely. Did you get the honey biscuits? Mia smiled and peach preserves. She moved through the narrow hallway, passing framed photos from a life that once promised more. Her graduation photo from Georgia State, a picture of her mother in nurse whites, a faded shot of her father before he left. In the back room, Gladys Williams sat propped against a mountain of pillows. Her frame frail, but her eyes sharp as ever. The oxygen tank beside her gave a soft, steady hiss. You're late, Gladys said, though without accusation. I ran into someone, Mia replied, setting the grocery bag on the dresser. A man? A moment, Mia said cryptically, then sighed. You remember that anonymous donor who paid your hospital bill 2 years ago? Gladys's gaze narrowed. What about him? I met him tonight just randomly. He was crying in his car in the Hallmark parking lot. Gladys frowned. The billionaire. That one from the news. Maya nodded. Benjamin Hart. He's going through something awful. Lost custody of his son. Lord, Gladys muttered. That's heavy. I offered to help. Gladys raised a skeptical eyebrow. Help a billionaire. I owe him more than I can repay, Maya said simply. And he helped us with no expectations, just kindness. Gladys studied her daughter for a long moment. He'll need someone with sense and fire. Lucky he found you, Mia gave a small laugh. You always say that like it's a blessing and a curse. It is. That night, after feeding her mother and sorting prescriptions, Maya sat at her tiny kitchen table, surrounded by folders and notes. She hadn't worked in law, but she understood people, especially when they lied. And something about Benjamin Hart's story itched at the back of her mind. She opened her laptop, old and slow, and began digging. Court records, public filings, articles buried in back pages. There was something strange about the timeline his ex-wife gave the court claims about his absences during key moments in their son's life. Vacations he supposedly took alone while their son was sick. But one article 3 years old showed Benjamin at a charity event during one of those alleged absent weeks handing out supplies at a children's hospital with his son beside him. That was a start. The next day, between cleaning floors and organizing pantries in Buckhead Estates, Maya took her lunch break in the back pantry and made calls, quiet ones, to reporters, to hospital admins, to a friend from school who now worked part-time in legal record-keeping. What are you doing, Maya? Her friend Kelsey asked when Mia explained. Helping someone who helped me, she answered. And maybe making a little justice happen while I'm at it. Later that week, Benjamin called her. You weren't kidding, he said. This stuff you found, it's real. Told you, she said, smiling. You have an eye for inconsistencies. You should have been a lawyer. I wanted to be until life rerouted me. There was a pause. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Oh, why are you really helping me? She hesitated. Because I remember what it felt like when no one believed my mother. When the system said she didn't deserve care and someone out of nowhere said otherwise, that someone was you. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm glad we met, Maya. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Over the next 2 weeks, they became an unlikely team. Him providing access, her doing the digging. Her evenings were spent cross-referencing flight logs, subpoenaed phone records, social media footprints. She uncovered patterns, nanny testimonies that had been omitted, documents misdated, even email threads where the opposing lawyer coached false testimony. One evening, Maya brought her mother outside to sit on the porch. It was a rare good-night warm breeze, stable vitals, no headaches. "You're doing good work, girl," Gladys said. "I'm just trying to make something right." Gladys looked up at the sky, twilight softening her features. "Justice ain't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet ones who carry it forward." Mia nodded, holding that thought close. By week's end, Benjamin's new legal team had what they needed. Mia's file was delivered in person, neatly organized, labeled, cross-referenced. At the next hearing, Benjamin's attorney presented the new evidence. The judge, initially unmoved, began to frown as contradictions stacked up. Witness statements collapsed. False dates unraveled. Maya didn't attend the court. She stayed at work, polishing a marble counter in a cold kitchen. But when her phone rang that afternoon, and she heard Benjamin's voice say, "We did it," she sat down on the floor and let herself cry for the first time in months. Not from sadness, but from release. Later that evening, Benjamin sent a car for her. The driver, polite and sharply dressed, led her into the towering glass building of Hart Holdings. They took the elevator up 32 floors and stepped into a sunlit modern office where Benjamin waited, no longer the broken man from the SUV. "I want you to work here," he said. "I'm serious." She opened her mouth to protest, but he held up a hand. "I know you don't think you're qualified, but let me tell you something. Integrity isn't on a resume. You earned this." And so the offer was made. A new life placed in her hands, not as repayment, but as recognition. Maya's first morning at Hart Holdings began before sunrise. The sky outside her apartment was still heavy with darkness when she zipped up her newly pressed blazer, an off-brand navy number she found on clearance the week before, and stepped into the hallway. Her breath caught somewhere between excitement and disbelief. She'd told her mother the night before, half expecting a warning, a dose of caution. But Gladys had simply smiled, nodded, and said, "God opens doors in quiet places. Walk through, baby." The town car sent by Benjamin was waiting outside. Engine humming, driver courteous, but silent. Maya clutched a leather tote she'd borrowed from her neighbor, Miss Henley, the kind of structured bag that looked like it belonged in a corporate tower, and rode in silence, watching the city come to life. Hart Holdings was a fortress of glass and steel in the heart of downtown Atlanta, all clean lines and polished stone. Maya stepped into the marble lobby, heart pounding, and approached the security desk. "Name," the guard asked without looking up. "Mia William, I'm here for." He raised a hand. "You're cleared. Mr. Hart said to send you up the moment you arrived." She blinked. "Oh, 32nd floor executive wing." The elevator was fast, too fast. By the time the doors opened, she wasn't sure her heart had caught up. Benjamin Hart stood in his office, spacious, modern, but not cold. Framed photos lined the windowsill. A boy around 10, grinning in everyone. A baseball glove, a fishing trip, a school recital. Memories of a life he'd nearly lost. He turned when she entered. No suit today, just a pressed shirt, slacks, and that same world-weary calm he carried even when smiling. "Maya," he said warmly. "Welcome." I still feel like I'm trespassing," she admitted. "You're not. You earned this. Come on, let me show you around." The tour was brief but packed with information. Her office was just across from his modest but bright with a window overlooking Centennial Park. The team she'd be assisting was small legal analysts, a data investigator, and a compliance officer. All handling internal audits and corporate ethics cases. "This is new for me," Maya said as they walked back to his office. "I'm building this team from scratch," truncated 72,092 characters, sketches of meeting notes, half-drafted addresses, names of people who'd helped and those who'd resisted. She wrote one line before closing it. "Justice doesn't ask for comfort. It demands courage." And when courage finds form, it changes everything. She turned off the light. Outside, the city slept. Inside, Maya dreamed not of battles yet to come, but of lives quietly strengthened by standards, accountability, and the quiet power of one person who refused to look away. The gavel would fall again. But when it did, it would do so with integrity, purpose, and the memory of every step behind it. 2 weeks had passed since the Ethics Committee's inaugural meeting, and Hardings was already beginning to adjust new vetting processes in place. Whistleblower training underway. Third-party audit scheduled. Mia greeted this transition with a cautious optimism, knowing that change is as much about momentum as structure. The Monday morning pace was steady. No breaking fires to be put out. That calm was shattered at 10 a.m. when Maya received an urgent call from the CEO of a local nonprofit. "Maya, call me back now, please." She returned the call immediately. "Could you come over? We're getting threats," the voice said. "Because of what Hart Holdings said." "You are being blamed." Her heart fell. The discrimination story involving Darlington Logistics had rippled far beyond corporate circles. Local communities felt connected. And now, backlash threatened a nonprofit advocating for marginalized groups. "I'm on my way." An hour later, Maya was at the nonprofit's modest office space. Volunteers paused their work to look at her with concern. A few locked eyes with her and nodded. She was ushered into a small meeting room where the executive director stood, Alex Monroe, mid-30s, expressive, exhausted. "They're calling us agitators," Alex said, voice shaking. "Even though we only published your press release now. Donors are getting calls, emails, threats meant to shut us down with Hardings tagged in every message." Maya swallowed. She remembered how exposed she felt, framed, dismissed. Now this vulnerability was being mirrored in innocent hands. "I'm so sorry," Mia began. "But this backlash, it's not their fault." Alex shook his head. "People are scared. When they hear discrimination, they point to loud targets." Maya took a breath. "I'll help. I'll lend whatever support we can." Alex let out a shaky laugh. "You've already done more than most of us expected." Back at Hart Holdings that afternoon, Maya stood in Benjamin's office. "They're under fire," she said. "This nonprofit targeted because of association, not actions." Benjamin frowned. "We can't ignore that." Maya nodded. "We won't. We should issue a statement supporting them. Reaffirm our stance. And I'd like to fund their legal defense." He considered it. Corporate responsibility beyond the press release. "Yes," Maya said. "It's not about what looks good, it's about what matters." Later, the Ethics Committee convened once more over secure video link with Maya, Benjamin, Alex from the nonprofit and the board's public relations head. They drafted a supportive statement, plan for community outreach, and a small scholarship fund for victims of corporate discrimination. That evening, Maya returned home to find her mother waiting with a pot of stew simmering on the stove and a card on the counter. On it, handwritten, "You stand when others retreat." Tears pricked Maya's eyes as she sank into that note. She realized her courage had become a beacon. Quiet, sturdy, unwavering. The next morning, press caught wind of Hart Holdings's extended response. The scholarship fund, public support for the allies threatened. A donation drive for the nonprofit's legal fees. The narrative shifted from a corporate cleanup to a communal alliance. Maya walked through the office hallways and felt it. Respect, hope, see her not as disruptor, but as anchor. At lunchtime, staffers she barely knew offered quiet thanks. One talks of volunteering, another asks how to be an ally. Maya answered each with humility. 2 days later, at her desk, her phone buzzed with an email from the nonprofit. It included a simple, powerful line. "Thank you for giving us the strength to stand." Maya exhaled, her heart settled in a new rhythm. That evening, Maya and Benjamin met in a quiet downtown cafe, soft light and distant hum, their companions. He reached across the table and placed a small wrapped package in front of her. Inside, an elegant pen engraved with the stories yet written. She read the engraving, eyes filling. "Keep going," she whispered. Outside, the city lights glowed with stories of cities renewed, lives changed. And Maya William, she wasn't just writing her own story anymore. She was writing a legacy. Monday morning arrived with an unusual stillness in Maya's office. The usual buzz of keyboards and distant chatter felt paused, as if the entire building itself was gathering strength. Today wasn't just another board meeting. It was the day Maya would speak at the Ethical Leadership Council's annual summit in Chicago. While I couldn't find detailed program info about that specific council, organizations like Ethisphere, the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance, focus on recognizing corporate ethical standards and fostering values-based leadership that aligns with the vision Maya now embodies. At 7:30 a.m., she took the elevator down, carrying her presentation notes and the engraved pen Benjamin had given her. She passed co-workers already delivering quiet nods. Her presence a living reminder of how far the company had traveled. The private car waited as the city skyline slid by. She closed her eyes and breathed in deeply. This wasn't just her story anymore. It was a symbol of courage, integrity, and the promise of real change. In Chicago, the summit venue hummed with formal energy panelists, executives, ethics professionals gathered under banners proclaiming values like integrity, accountability, respect, core tenets of ethical leadership. Mia stood backstage, heart anchored. When it was her turn, she stepped forward into the lights and began, "Good morning. I'm Maya William, Director of Ethics and Compliance, now Chair of the Ethics Committee at Hart Holdings, a company transformed by the belief that truth doesn't ask for comfort. It demands courage." Her words rippled through the audience. She spoke of uncovering corruption, systemic bias, even being framed, but more importantly, she spoke of achieving change through persistence, empathy, and institutional accountability. She outlined the steps Hart Holdings had taken, embedding an ethics committee with direct reporting, protecting whistleblowers, building audits into vendor oversight principles aligned with best practices in organizational ethics. She paused, letting the weight of transformation land. Then she said, "In ethical leadership, we align our actions with our values. We don't lead by profit, but by purpose. We ask not just can we, but should we?" Her voice stayed steady, warm, firm, unapologetic. The room broke into applause. At that moment, Maya wasn't just a speaker. She was a beacon for everyone in that room and beyond. During a panel Q&A, a CEO from another firm asked, "How do we sustain ethical momentum after the crisis?" Maya answered, "Embed ethics into decision-making. Make it structural, not episodic. Lead with empathy, transparency, and institutional checks." Backstage, a young woman approached. "I'm a compliance officer at a rival company. Your speech gave me clarity and hope." Maya smiled, feeling that full circle moment. Her journey from quiet concern in a parking lot to standing before peers had created ripples. Flying home that evening, Mia reflected on how ethical leadership works by modeling integrity, amplifying marginalized voices, and building systems that keep those values alive. When she returned, Benjamin was waiting, arms open with quiet pride. "You were phenomenal," he whispered. She thought of the gavel engraving guardian of the light, the insignia of everything earned. "Just passing the torch," she replied. And in Hart Holdings and beyond, that light shone a little brighter. The Monday sunlight filtered softly through the executive office's wide windows. At last, it was time. Not just the final chapter of Maya Williams' story, hers and Hart Holdings is but a beginning rooted in accountability, integrity, and the quiet hum of lasting change. Morning was when she first heard it. The soft hum of voices, newly unguarded, not gossip, but conversations, staff discussing ethics training, vendor reviews, local partnerships, and what accountability meant in practice. That rippled energy was what she'd hoped her work would spark. She tapped a file on her desk. The final consolidated ethics policy pages brimming with concrete processes, protections, evaluations, regular disclosures, whistleblower safeguards, and annual public reporting. Hundreds of hours turned into a living document. At 10 a.m., Benjamin entered lean, calm, and attentive. "This is it?" he asked, settling into the chair across from her. "This is it," she responded. It's not perfect, but now it's permanent. He nodded. Then let's take it public. Then together they prepared for an afternoon address to the company employees, board members, local press invited, BUP stories. Maya's heart tapped in measured rhythms, steady, confident, living in purpose. At 1 p.m., the grand hall, formerly a refined boardroom, was filled. Staff sat in measured rows. Some wore name tags saying ethics ambassador volunteers who trained peers on the new code. Cameras were stationed not for spectacle but for transparency. Energy crackled. Maya stepped forward. Benjamin beside her. She began. Today we stand not just as a company renewed but as a community committed. Committed to the truth we build, not conceal. Her voice resonated. She spoke of the journey, the man in the rain, her mother's gentle toughness, uncovering fraud, exposing discrimination, surviving smear campaigns, rooting out betrayal, anchoring the company, and now establishing justice as ongoing momentum. She looked not for applause, but for reflection. Ethics doesn't wake one morning fully formed, she continued. It's learned in decisions, small and large. It's grown through courage. It's whispered through ordinary days, in ordinary moments of choosing right. At that the room lifted soft nods, a few quiet, yes, that's it. It was then it sank in. Justice wasn't shouted. It was whispered by someone who refused to walk away. Benjamin closed the moment. With this code, Hart Holdings recommits to our people, our communities, and the future we choose to build. He invited applause, genuine, earned, kind. Later, heads turned in somber pride. Staff approached Maya with hopeful eyes. One volunteer shared how she'd intervened in a questionable vendor contract. Another said she'd filed her first ethics concern using the new hotline. Those whispers became evidence that ethics breathe life when they become routine. As the hall emptied, Benjamin found her and quietly said, "One step becomes 10 when it's never the last." Maya looked at him. I didn't know what I was building. I only knew I couldn't walk away again. He smiled. And you didn't. Not once. That evening back home, Maya placed the final printed code on her coffee table. Her mother looked up from her knitting. Well, Gladys asked gently. We did it, Mia said. We built something that lasts. Her mother smiled, eyes bright. That's enough. Mia leaned in. It won't stop. Not for us, but for them. She touched the document word by word, policy by policy, knowing the work of justice never ends. It lives in decisions, in doors opened, in voices lifted in quiet hallways, in commitments made and kept. The city lights glimmered outside, quiet and steady. And inside, Hart Holdings held its breath no longer. Justice had been whispered, and now it was spoken aloud, echoing through every corridor, every office, every life it touched. Not with triumph, but with purpose. This story reminds us that true justice often begins in silence, not in grand speeches, but in quiet acts of courage. Maya Williams' journey teaches us that standing up for what's right doesn't require a title, only conviction. In a world where systems can fail and voices are silenced, one person's integrity can light a path forward. The lesson is clear. When we choose empathy over apathy, truth over comfort, and action over fear, we don't just change policies, we change lives. And sometimes the most powerful legacy is the one built not with power, but with purpose. BUP stories.